Well, my name is Juanita Eichenlaub, but it used to be Juanita Warwick, and then when I got married, it was Eichenlaub. And I used to think that I was a Jew because my initials were J-E-W. And I was born in Williamsport, Indiana, 1918, in April the 26th. So, present time, I'm 84 years old. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Good.
Yeah. So tell us about where you were born at.
In Williamsport, Indiana, that's where the hills and the hollers are. That's what we used to call them because they had streams, the Wabash River, and right in Williamsport, they had a falls right down the downtown. I've forgotten the name of it, but it was right on the main street even, as I remember. And so I was born in a hotel, which my grandmother owned, and my mother and her sister, that's Julia, was my mother, and Effie, they helped their mother run the hotel. And the hotel was called Warren County Hotel, and it had to be torn down though when they put a highway through. There went that property because it was in the way. So my dad, his name is Francis Edward Warwick, and when he and my mother met, he had a pair of mules, and he called them Jules and Julia, and he hauled freight from the trains, delivered freight, and well, it was just a small town, but it was always fun to go back to. In fact, when we kids were all little, I'm one of 5 children, why, the reunions were real fun. We'd go to the parks, and you'd see signs like, this is the Devil's Hole, or or Fountain, or something. I forgot. Attica, see, Attica Park. Maybe it's got a better name than that, I don't know. But we got to know our relatives, though, pretty much. Anyway.
Tell us a little bit about your brothers and sisters. Who is older and who is younger?
Oh, okay. Well, Lillian, she was first born. She's 2 years older than I am. And her name was Lillian Margaret Warwick. And then she married Paul Thomas. And she's 2 years older than I am, or did I say that? Yeah. And then Brother Rollin, he was born after me, and I never did get it straight whether he was 2 years younger or 4 years younger. Right to this day, I don't know. Then along came Jean, and her name was Olive Jean. She got named after my Aunt Olive. Aunt Olive, she was a midwife for my mom. My mom never went to the hospital to have her children, and she had 5. And then Jimmy, he was the youngest, and my picture of him when he was little was riding on his tricycle with long curls. His hair was blonde and curly. Oh. Anyway, just adorable. So, when the folks first came to Toledo, it was because of work. There wasn't work in the small towns. And so my Uncle Harry and Aunt Grace, they moved to Toledo too for work. And one place that they worked, that as Aunt Effie did anyway, my mother's sister, was the box glove factory. And I believe, learning years later, that Tilly, I think, and Walt, well, Tilly anyway, worked at the box glove factory too.
Tilly would be?
Bill's, my husband's sister, Tilly. Yeah. So anyway, we lived at 953 Pinewood Avenue, and that's just a few blocks from right downtown. Well, to this day, all those houses were demolished, and in fact, all the black people have moved in to the whole area, really. So, but when my mother and dad came to Toledo, through my mother's mother, Phoebe, no, that's my dad's mother, Phoebe, Elvira was my mother's mother, my grandmother. She bought the property on 953 Pinewood, which was a duplex. We lived downstairs and we rented out the upstairs. And I remember the woman that lived there, her name was Miss Messenger. And what we heard about her, that she had a friend, like she was planning on getting married, she was engaged. Well, he got killed in a train accident. And all of that really, for little kids, we were affected, really. So, and back at that house, too, upstairs, we have a picture that was taken, it's looking towards the backyard. We had snow in May.
Really?
Really, quite accumulation in Toledo at that time. So, and we used to have alleys behind the property, and our garbage was set out there in cans. And I remember we looking out the back window, and every once in a while a candle would go up in the air because a rat was trying to get out. Great fun. Oh boy. Well,
tell us a little bit about your childhood, like games you played. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when I started in kindergarten, there was a day when all the whole class had gone. Excuse me. Had gone for a well, I don't know what they call it now. We went for a walk around a few blocks, the whole class. And when we came back to the school, which was Roosevelt School, elementary, and you're hanging up our coats, which was called a cloakroom. A little boy, or well, my size too, was next to me. He was hanging his coat up, and I was doing likewise. Anyway, somehow or other, when I went to turn, he had stepped on my foot. And as I turned, I had awful pain in my hip joint. And I cried and cried, and the teacher didn't know what to do with me. And so I think somebody went after my dad. And, well, I landed in the hospital then, which I had a softening bone in the hip joint, which was called tuberculosis. So as a result of that, I went to Charles Fieldbus School through the 6th grades. And in the meantime, for what happened with me was to relieve the pain, when I was first afflicted, I was put in a bed, and the whole leg had wrappings around it and tied to the end of the bed, and they lifted the foot of the bed up in the air. And then my leg and whole hip and all down the leg to the ankle was put in a cast, one of those hard casts, which they don't have today. They have different ones.
Is that here in Toledo, the school?
In Toledo, at St. Vincent's Hospital on Cherry Street. Oh. That's where it was back then. And I think I was there maybe a month. Well, I'm not sure about that, but anyway, when I was released, I started going to Fieldbus School for crippled children. A bus picked me up, and I had to get up earlier than anybody and go stand on a corner, waited to be picked up. Well, as time went on, we had a nurse at school that attended all the kids, and one day I'd put my hands under the cast where my stomach area is and feel down, and here it came up with ooze. So as a result of that, a hole was cut in the cast right at the hip. And here, what they said later was it was a good thing because it was like a sore or an abscess that it healed from the inside out. So I continued to go to Fieldbus School wearing this cast, but they kept cutting the cast partially off. So I used to run around on the playgrounds, which the school at that time was connected with Woodward High School and Fieldbus School were together in the same building, which is right now is the location where our main public library is on a whole block. That the school was, which accommodated Charles Fieldbus School as well as the main high school.